of everyone's time. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's campus chat with AOP and McNairs Scholars Director, Marcus Watts. My name is Amanda McCarthy, and I'm the Assistant Director of Alumni Communications and Engagement. So before we get going, I do just want to remind you of a few housekeeping items. If you're not speaking, please go ahead and mute your microphone to help us minimize background noise. If you have questions during the event, go ahead and enter them into the chat. And note that this session is being recorded so we can share it with those who cannot attend today. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker. Marcus Watts is the new director of Geneseo's Access Opportunities Programs, most recently serving as the director of Onondaga Community College's Educational Opportunity Program. He also held a number of positions at Monroe Community College, including Assistant Director of Student Engagement, Coordinator of Academic Advisement Services, Adjunct Instructor, and Coordinator of the African American Latino Male Retention Initiative. Watts holds MPA and BS degrees from the SUNY College at Brockport. Marcus, thank you for joining us today to share updates on the many changes in AOP.
Thank you, Amanda, and thank you to everyone who took the time to today for this campus chat. It's great to see the faces, and I wish we could be doing this in a real live in-person setting, and maybe we will if we do another one maybe next year or something, Amanda. Maybe we could be face-to-face, but for now, I think Zoom will have to suffice. I'll start off with just a little bit about me. You heard a little bit of my resume and my experience. I've been in the higher education space for about 15, no, not quite 15, about 12 years. And I've been in the education space though for about 23 or 24 years, both secondary and higher education. I have experience in the secondary education world at a BOCES, a local BOCES in Rochester, Monroe One BOCES. I was there for about a decade, and I worked with students who had disabilities, and I helped them to transition from what we know as like school age services to adult services. So I was a transition coordinator way back when. But it gave me a great foundation for working with students who were from disadvantaged backgrounds, right? So students with disabilities fall into that category as well. And most of my higher education experience has been working with students from disadvantaged backgrounds. Spent about 8 years at Monroe Community College, primarily at their downtown campus, which the entire campus operation was primarily to serve students who lived in the city of Rochester. And that's where I started. And that's why I had the male initiative, the Young Men of Color initiative that was very successful there. But because I think of the level of success that I found, I was elevated to a new position, and I think I got promoted twice there. So, but I ran their advising services at their downtown campus for about 6.5 to 7 years. So I've got quite a bit of experience working with students to help them, move through the different steps, the different phases of being a college student and getting them to graduation. After MCC, I went to SUNY Onondaga Community College, where I was the director of the Educational Opportunity Program, EOP, as we call it. And I did that for about 5 years. I was still living in Henrietta at the time, and the drive was getting to be a bit much. So I was very pleased to see the position at Geneseo, as I'm only about 25 minutes away from the campus in Henrietta. And I've been at SUNY Geneseo since April 30th. So I've only ever worked at Geneseo during the pandemic. And even though I go to campus quite a bit to my office, I still have yet to work with my entire staff in the office to this date. So it's been odd and strange, but we're making it work, and the programs are great. a little bit about my personal life. I'm actually not from New York. I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana. And I probably, at this point now, I think I've lived in New York, in Western New York now, longer than I lived in New Orleans growing up. So I've been here, I think about 26, 27 years. So I'm pretty much a Western New Yorker now. I've been in the Rochester area for at least that long, and I went to college here, obviously, and I've started my career, and my career has pretty much operated in this part of the world. I am, I guess you could say, someone who would have been a student in one of my programs here through AOP if the state of Louisiana had such services. New York is quite blessed to have so many services for students who are considered disadvantaged and who come from backgrounds that are not your traditional sort of college backgrounds. I would have been one of these students, but I was not, only because the colleges and services down there weren't as good as the state of New York. So that's a little bit about me, but I don't want to focus on that. I'd like to talk to you about AOP and the programs that we offer. And right now, we are 4 programs, and I'll talk about each one. But I want to bring attention to Isom E. Fern, the gentleman who started Access Opportunity Programs at SUNY Geneseo way back in 1985, and I'm bringing attention to Mr. Fern because his program, this idea of access opportunity programs, survived a couple of presidential administrations and probably a few provosts, and that's unique for homegrown programs like the ones in AOP. So I would say Mr. Fern would be very pleased to know that his name is still attached to Access Opportunity Programs. And I'll talk a little bit about each one. So we're comprised of 4 programs now. The Arthur O. Eve Educational Opportunity Program, also known as EOP, which is the state-funded opportunity program that has been around since, I think, 1968. I'm going to put some links in the chat in a bit once I'm done talking. That'll give you some more information about all these programs. But EOP is I think in over 60, I think 64 of the 82 campuses in New York State have an EOP. So it's quite a popular program. It just recently, a few years ago, hit its 50th anniversary. And I think the program is claiming upwards of 80,000 graduates in those many years. So it's been around for a while. It's very popular, and the services that are offered are still very much in need. Our other program that is relatively new to Geneseo is the Ronald E. McNair Post-Baccalaureate Achievement Program, that we simply call McNair Scholars, or McNair, because that is quite a mouthful for the title. But McNair is a program, it's a federal program, it's a grant, it's part of the TRIO suite of programs. And it primarily is to provide services to students that are interested in research and ultimately interested in receiving a PhD. So it's a program to steer students to graduate education with the ultimate goal of them receiving a terminal degree, a doctorate of some sort or another, not professional doctorates though, like dental and medical. It's more in line with the PhD and not so much with the professional degrees. Our newest program is the TRIO Student Support Services Program that you might hear me say Triple S. We're trying to figure out the shortened version of that, but Triple S for now. But the Student Support Services Program is also part of the TRIO suite of programs from the federal government. It's our newest grant. It's a $1.3 million grant that started this academic year. It's funded for 5 years, and depending on how we do, depending on whether or not we're achieving our programmatic goals, we may get another 5 years once this first 5-year grant cycle is over. The program is up and running. We're trying to stand it up currently. We've hired a director. We've hired 2 other staff members, and we are currently reviewing student applications. I'll talk a little bit more about each one of these, but the last program is the Transitional Opportunity Program, which was also one of the original AOP programs offered at SUNY Geneseo through Mr. Ison Fern. TOP, as it's commonly known, was actually, it was just announced this academic year that TOP will be phasing out. The program still exists. We still have, I think, over 130 students enrolled in the program. Those students will continue to receive the services that they were promised when they were admitted. And it's going to phase out each year as each cohort graduates. So each year it'll get a little smaller. And I think the easiest way to say it is it was it was a fiscal decision, and not because the program wasn't valuable and doing good work. I think the pandemic might have pushed it a little closer to the edge, but I think it was a fiscal casualty, and we're really sad that it is being phased out. I am hopeful that maybe they'll have a change, the administration will have a change of heart. And, as we reach that last cohort and decide that, yeah, we might keep it around for a little while, or some other version of it might take place. So a couple of things. EOP and TOP are both admissions programs. So students can be admitted to these programs in the application process to the college. McNair and Triple S are both programs that students can apply to participate in once they've been admitted to the college. All of these programs are designed to provide services to students who are low income, first generation, and in the case of student support services, students with disabilities. They all have that in common, that they're pretty much designed for those particular student cohorts. The supports that each one of the programs offers in one fashion or another are academic, personal, financial, and then there's some other supports. So obviously academic support primarily is tutoring. All of our programs have a tutoring component that is funded through the funding for each one of the programs. So students can get free tutoring for general sort of freshman English, math, etc. But we also have some content tutoring in some courses like chemistry and biology as well. Depending on need, we could probably also, develop some other content tutoring. But typically the need is in the writing area, math, and science, especially the introductory science courses. But all of our programs provide academic support through tutoring. The personal support, all of our programs also offer counseling services, and I guess you could also call that guidance, because it's more than just counseling. It also includes academic advising, just general support for helping students navigate this new world that they find themselves in that might be a bit of a challenge. So I think the best thing, we kind of give them a home base. They have someone to turn to. We always tell students, whatever your issue is, call me first. I'll tell you if I can help. And if I can't help, I'll tell you where to get the help. So it gives them a home base. It gives them gives the students a place to turn to with whatever kind of issues they might have. Our newest program, Student Support Services, also comes with a paid position for a mental health counselor, as we've been seeing an increase in students who are dealing with various mental health issues. And the mental health counseling apparatus at SUNY Geneseo is really overtaxed right now. They do a great job, but they have way more students than they have ability to provide services to those students. So having a mental health counselor connected to the Student Support Services program is really going to be, I think it's going to pay major dividends going forward as far as being able to get students seen by someone sooner rather than later, and maybe giving them a little bit more of a personal touch as opposed to just sort of a general mental health counselor. So we're really excited about that. The other support that's common across all these programs is financial support. EOP offers direct aid. The students are actually, the direct aid is part of their financial aid packaging when they're admitted. The Student Support Services program offers a very minimal amount of direct aid, but there is direct aid available. The McNair program, which is a smaller operation, but there is there's talk about being able to provide support up to $5,000 per year for those students. So the numbers go up for those students. And TOP, obviously, there's, I guess, more limited financial support, but those students, because they fit a certain criteria, their financial aid packaging, the consideration for them being TOP is considered in their financial aid packaging. So they do receive some type of financial support. The other supports that are kind of common across our programs, the big one for me is the Summer Scholars Program, which we're actually planning for this summer. And I just got word yesterday from the Provost office that we will be able to go forward planning this as an in-person on-campus program. Last year, we were forced to do it virtually. It just doesn't have the same sort of outcomes or the feeling as a virtual program as it does when the students are on campus. So the Summer Scholars Program primarily is to get students acclimated to the campus, to the community, to the professors, to the dorms. It gives them sort of a head start in the summer prior to the campus being fully populated. And so they, feel a little less stress about moving around, feel a little less stress about asking questions of folks that maybe they're not familiar with. And it's really one of the best practices of all the opportunity programs that you're going to hear about today and otherwise. So the Summer Scholars Program is really a great support. Unfortunately, since TOP is being phased out, that means we're not bringing in a new freshman class this fall. TOP, this is the first summer that the TOP students will not be included in the Summer Scholars Program. So essentially, it's going to be an EOP Summer Scholars Program. But we also have for some of our students, we have a laptop loan program. Mcnair offers their undergraduate research opportunities and internships. And again, they promote the resources to get students to grad school. Mcnair can actually pay for students to do campus visits for grad school and fully cover those costs, including like airfare if they're going to California or somewhere far away. So those are great resources that we have for our students. And I just want to throw a plug in there. One of our graduates for this May recently got an acceptance to Cornell's graduate school, I think in biology. And I think she's pretty much got a full ride to go and get a master's degree in biology at Cornell. So that's one of our recent success stories, but these programs have been ultra successful over the years. So I was trying to figure out which direction I should take this conversation today, just because it's a varied audience. So I thought I'd give you like a SWOT analysis, right? Or a SWOT analysis, I guess you could say. So for those of you who are not familiar, SWOT stands for Strengths, Weaknesses, Opportunities, and Challenges. And it's just a way of sort of figuring out where you are and where you're trying to go. But I'll start with our strengths. These programs all under AOP, all of the basic tenets of our programs fit easily into the institutional strategic plan. Right now, there's a big push, the initiative to become an anti-racist campus. Well, our programs and our students certainly are gonna help promote that initiative, just because many of the students that are in our AOP programs happen to be students who might be considered from a minority group, or students who add diversity to the college community. Right now, we have a SUNY chancellor who is a champion of EOP. I don't know how else to put it. He actually, when he was hired, Chancellor Malotras, I think it's how you say his last name, Jim Malotras, he actually donated a portion of his salary to the overall budget of EOP at SUNY. So he has, in recent weeks, he has met with our students across the state, and we had many SUNY Geneseo students participate in that conversation. He has just yesterday, he did at least a 30-minute presentation to all of the EOP directors from around the state. And he's really availed himself to the needs of this program. So we have the leader of SUNY is interested in the success of EOP, and we are very excited about that. But we know that administrations change, so we've got to strike while the iron's hot, so to speak. We have, we being the SUNY EOP, the Office of Opportunity Programs, has a $15 million increase as an ask to the state legislature. We just got word yesterday, we had a big meeting that may not get the full 15 million, but it's looking somewhere around 6.5 to $7 million of an increase this year, which I think is like a 20% of that or whatever. So it's good to be an EOP right now in regards to the SUNY chancellor. The other big strength of our program is just the fantastic students that we bring in each year. You know, you just can't, I really haven't even met them all yet because I've basically not been working on campus, but the students that I come into contact with, they're just the nicest, brightest, most, just the students with the most potential you can ever find. And they just are committed to this idea of being a part of EOP. They're committed to their scholarship. They're actively involved in all the other campus units out there on the Geneseo campus. And it is definitely a strength of ours because they're the ones who have made EOP and AOP in general so successful over the last, I don't know, 25, 30 years. So major strength there. Another big strength of AOP is that we have committed staff, and our campus allies support this program like you just can't imagine. I mean, I'm going to shout out Amanda right now for even offering to do a campus chat with me. That says to me that, you know, her office is interested in EOP, right? And to bring together a group like this to talk about the services that we offer through our AOP office, it's just fantastic. So major strength there. And obviously, you know, being a part of SUNY Geneseo's institutional history makes our program even stronger when we're in the recruitment process, which I'm actually sort of knee deep in right now as we prepare to bring in our summer and fall students for the 21-22 school year, which still sounds weird to say. Our weaknesses, mostly enrollment declines. Right now across the state, EOP applications are down 42%. There's not a whole lot we can do about that because most of the declines have to do with declining high school graduation rates. And I think some of the declines have to do with the pandemic. And additionally, I think some of the declines have to do with students making other decisions instead of going to college and creating a whole lot of debt before you actually even get a professional job. I think they're choosing to do other things. Another big weakness, again, that we're not really in control of is that unfortunately funding is tied to politics, and in gubernatorial administrations of past, EOP has been completely wiped off of executive budgets and then restored at the last minute. So we do understand in this opportunity program space that, you know, having an administration that is interested in these services is a big deal. And because we now have two federal programs, right now, I think the politics is on our side, because educational funding, I think, is going to see hopefully some increases. But certainly, I don't think we're going to see many big cuts in federal education funds going forward, at least for the near future anyway. Another weakness that we have in relation to finances is the high cost of higher ed. And I found out recently there's actually a term that folks are using, at least in opportunity program circles. They're calling it the TAP gap. And that's sort of the gap between funding and how much a student actually owes to meet their financial needs each year. And there's a big push at the state level for the legislature this year to increase the amount of funds that students are receiving through the TAP program, which is TAP stands for Tuition Assistance Program, which is the state version of Pell. It's a grant program that New York State residents qualify for. And yeah, they're pushing to increase that this year to cover this quote unquote TAP gap. Another weakness that we have in recruiting some of the students that typically come to our school is our location, right? And we're rural, and we are a primarily white institution. So a rural PWI, it's a challenge to recruit students who fit the criteria of all these programs, especially with the pandemic, keeping students closer to home. Many of the students that come to SUNY Geneseo are from the downstate area, the 5 boroughs, and it is we have to sell them on this idea of coming to the Genesee Valley. Certainly, you know, the issues revolve around like transportation issues and just access issues to different things that maybe they're used to. So it's interesting though, once they get to Geneseo, they realize how great a place it is, and that doesn't become an issue as they've been there for a while. So I think most students who come to Geneseo, they stay and they graduate. So next we'll talk about opportunities. So because of our phase out of our transitional opportunity program, TOP, I think there's an opportunity for us to increase the funded enrollment of our EOP. Right now, and I think for the last several years, we're funded to serve 163 students through EOP. There are institutions like ours, and what I mean by that is the size of ours, that have programs, EOP programs that are over 200 students. So I don't think we're going to do it right away, but as TOP phases out, I think I am going to be proposing that we increase the numbers of EOP students, just so that you know, we have the ability to serve more students. Another opportunity for us are other grant opportunities. We just got this big grant through TRIO for student support services. I think there are other funding sources out there that maybe we don't want a new program, but maybe we could find some funding for some other resources that students could take advantage of. So there are opportunities out there, and I'm sure Amanda's office is looking into those opportunities, and Ann Baldwin in our grants office is always looking for opportunities. So we'll keep posted on that. The other real opportunity I think we have is to, and I don't know if we can really improve it, but to have a greater institutional profile. So just within the SUNY Geneseo community. I think the fact that, we're bringing in grant funds, we are sort of integral to this idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. I think AOP can have a much greater institutional profile in the sense that, maybe there are some folks out there looking to give students additional scholarship funds, or looking to provide other resources in the way of internships or specific opportunities in specific majors. So I think, we've taken a little bit of a hit with TOP being phased out, but I think at the same time, with the institution making some significant moves in the DEI space, diversity, equity, and inclusion space, I think it improves our standing in the institution at large. So some challenges. Enrollment. Everything is revolving around enrollment. I talked earlier about the overall decline in just the EOP applications around the state. I think I said 42%. Geneseo's applications are down with regard to EOP, but not in the 40s. We're in the mid 30, I think like 34%. So we're doing better than some others, but nonetheless, it's still a struggle to find the qualified students that fit the criteria of the program and who want to come to SUNY Geneseo. So it's a struggle to be fully enrolled. Right now, actually, our EOP, I said it was funded to serve 163 students. We actually have an enrollment for the spring, which the spring always, you lose a few in December to graduation, but we're down to 103. So we're really underfunded, under enrolled right now, but we're looking to bring in a quite a large class to make up that deficit for the fall. So we anticipate we're going to have over 160 students for the fall, but it's a struggle. Just this week, I think we have recently, I was informed we had 40 students who've been admitted through EOP. They've gotten an admissions letter from Geneseo, and I've been reaching out to them and just speaking with them and sort of interviewing them to see what their needs are, to see what they're interested in. And I'll just be perfectly honest with this group. I'm trying to sell them on Geneseo, and it's like, we need you here. If I've got 40 admits, I need 40 of them to show up in the summer and the fall. So I'm working really hard to make up that 60 student gap that we currently have. Another big challenge is student engagement. Obviously, the pandemic did not help with that. It's a challenge to reach the students where they are, right? So reaching them where they are in a pandemic is really difficult, but even when they're on campus, it's still difficult engaging them, getting them involved in the activities that we think are going to be beneficial to them. And it's always a challenge, and we've been real creative, and we've entered into the social media space with Instagram, and that's proving to be a bit successful. But we know that students don't read their emails, so we're trying not to send as many emails to students. And we are entering the social media space, and we have some plans to maybe get a little deeper into that space, which kind of makes me lose some sleep because I'm not really interested in that space, but I understand that's where the students are, and we've got to meet them where they are. So the other big challenge that we have right now, I'm sure folks in this group know that the library has been shut down on campus, and it caused the library to move, which caused AOP to move, which caused other people to move. So our physical space right now is really not conducive to running the types of programs that we want to run. And what I mean by that is that we all have perfectly functional offices. The staff is pretty well set. We have computers, we have phones, et cetera, but we don't have that space that students need to congregate, whether it be for tutoring, whether it be for social engagement. We basically are in Blake Hall. Hopefully some of you are familiar with that building. It is an old dormitory. So it's not it's not really conducive to running the types of programs that we're running. So, we're having to find other spaces. But the Sturgis space that we were in Sturgis Hall, is being renovated, and we're being told it's going to be at least 2 to 3 years before that space is ready for us. So it's going to be a challenge to do all the things we're trying to do with our students in Blake Hall. I'm obviously, everybody's clamoring for space, so I've asked for additional space, but there's not a lot to be had. And I'm hopeful that we'll develop something soon here, but that's a really big challenge. So that kind of concludes the analysis. So I wanted to open it up to any questions folks might have for me. I'm actually going to stop my share right now. And I'm going to put some of these links in the chat. So any questions from anyone?
Hi there. My name is Lauren Fox, class of 2011, but technically graduated in 12 because I did a second thesis for my Black Studies major. I currently live in New Orleans. I work at Dillard University and I live in the 7th Ward. So I wanted to know, first and foremost, I also work in marketing. I'm getting my master's degree at Brandeis University in marketing and UX design. So definitely if you need an alum to, like give you advice on like just how to get more students on the social media front, or if you, need someone to speak to, students who are, unsure if they want to go to Geneseo, just because I know I had a double major in American and Black Studies, and my research skills from Geneseo has helped me a lot in my career of journalism and marketing. But yeah, I also wanted to know like how best can the alumni of AOP support, like recent grads or, students who are about to graduate and they're not sure. Because I know definitely like junior and senior year, you're like, oh my God, like what is life? Like what is a career and all of that stuff. So yeah.
Well, I got to start with Dillard University, 7th Ward. Okay, so Lauren, you are actually in my neighborhood. I went to summer camp at Dillard.
Oh my God.
and if you if you came out of Dillard and took a left on Gentilly and turned by the library, that's my own neighborhood back there.
Oh my goodness, I could do my eyebrows there.
Yep, St. Anthony and Mirabeau, right in that area.
Yeah.
It's technically known as Boscoville with a V, but that's where I'm from. So yeah, I'm right from where Lauren is right now. So I'm very happy to promote anything New Orleans. But to your question, I actually with Tracy last night. I think Tracy's still on the call. We had a meeting last night with our Alumni of Color group, and yeah, that was the similar question. What can the alumni do to assist, to help students at SUNY Geneseo? And it's a fine line, because it kind of came up in the conversation last night. Like, yes, we would love you to do everything, but some of the things that we would love you to do are actually things that the college is supposed to be doing, right? So it's kind of a fine line when you ask that question. One of the things that I'm going to try to leverage the alumni organization for is for like funding, some type of a fundraiser. We run into situations where federal and state funds, there are limitations on what we can spend that money on. And sometimes we just want to, have a meeting. We want to feed students, and food is one of those items that, depending on how it's characterized, you may or may not be able to use budget funds to do stuff like that. So we're always looking for other ways to fund those types of things. We are actually in the planning for our end of the year gathering or function. And it typically was a dinner that I think we had some support through a couple of foundation accounts. But we also would hit the provost office pretty hard to, for support. So that's one of the things I would love to see the alumni groups do, is just to fundraise, to allow us to be able to do those sort of extra things, and really not even extra things, but just the things that make students feel like they're really valued, and just to enhance their college experience. I remember, at SUNY Brockport, it was so great, to get dressed up and to go to that award ceremony or whatever it was, where there was a sit-down meal, there were, the room was decorated, they were presenters from various sectors coming to sort of honor us. And those are the types of things that I want to continue to do for the students at Geneseo. And I think the history of AOP has been able to do those things. But I mentioned earlier that TOP was probably a fiscal casualty. A lot of budgets have been combed. A lot of the funds, like what I'm talking about now, have been, reallocated, I guess you could say. And so, yeah, I hope that answers it, Lauren. But I'm still geeked that you're at Dillard.
Yeah, thanks for so much. And again, if you guys need anyone to, because I know, so I used to be a tour guide in Geneseo's like regular admissions. And I know a few years ago, they had the alums like just write a letter to students who are interested in whatever major we were pursuing and like what we were doing after Geneseo, just to like also secure placement. So, that's like another idea if students need that. If you guys need that, I'm sorry, to get the students to actually, go to Geneseo.
I love that idea. I love that idea.
I'm happy to jump in here real quick. I just wanted, in case anyone here didn't know this, the Geneseo Alumni Office recently launched an Alumni Career Advisor Network. And we did dedicate a grouping for AOP alumni and students, knowing that these students are maybe very in need of mentors, alumni like them who are also in the AOP program. So if you are interested, you can sign up and you can select the Access Opportunity Program as a grouping, and that would increase your chances of being connected to a student from AOP. Granted, it's a very detailed algorithm. And again, if they want to meet an alum who has a career as a photographer in Denver, if we have an alum who's a photographer in Denver, that may override the AOP connection, but there's a pretty good chance if you select AOP as a grouping, you may get connected to a student. And you can help them with a resume review, mock interviews, helping with the job search. So please join the Career Advisor Network.
Hey, Marcus, this is Eddie Lee. I've been involved with some of the AOP students over the years since I've been back in Geneseo. And I stepped away from the call for a second. I don't know if this is something Lauren talked about, but Tracy and the alumni office recently reached out to some of us to make calls to people who have been admitted to Geneseo and to see if we can convince them to come to Geneseo, because just because they've been admitted doesn't mean they've made a decision to come. So some of us have volunteered to do that, and I hope other people will do the same. Building upon what Tracy was talking about, I've had the benefit of living in Geneseo and doing mentorships with a lot of the AOP students, and it's been more useful and beneficial to me personally than it is to them. But I think to the ability that we can do that either in person or virtually, that's really helpful, especially while they're at Geneseo. In addition to that, after they've graduated, to the degree that we can match up professional relationships, that's also helpful. Because one of the things I found when I was involved with the Alumni Association is that for some reason, and maybe you can comment on this, a lot of AOP students and a lot of students of color do not come back to Geneseo for reunions. I raised that point early on, and I'm glad that they have established an alumni chapter for students of color. And that's been a long time coming, but that's been a challenge to, I think the students I talk to feel really good about Geneseo when they leave, but they never come back as alums. And I'm not sure to what degree they financially support Geneseo. Also, that's another data piece that I'm interested in knowing about. You know, how many alums of color actually provide financial support to Geneseo? So that's a whole bunch of questions, but I wonder if you have any perspectives on and whether that's also at other colleges, whether alums of color, in fact, participate in alumni activities after they graduate.
Yeah, I'm still too new to really. I've not been to a reunion or a homecoming or anything yet. I would imagine though that because many of our students do come from downstate, and they don't stay in the area to work and raise families in many cases, that could be a challenge. But yeah, I think you're right, and I think you're right about the general perception that they don't come back for reunions and homecoming. I think it has to do because, you know, their numbers are limited, which is why I'm really interested in increasing the numbers of students that participate in these programs, because I feel like if we could, you know, get the percentage of students who fit these categories up a little bit, maybe the cohorts can, you know, can be, I guess, more connected. But yeah, I think when the numbers are as low as they are, and I don't want to get into specifics because I don't actually know the number right now, but I think SUNY Geneseo is at the bottom of the rung as far as diversity and having students of color and from different ethnic backgrounds. And that's last of all the 80-something campuses for SUNY. So we've got to increase those numbers, and that's why I included it as a strength for us right now. You know, just looking at the general political climate in the country, certainly within the state, you know, the idea of removing some of these barriers that have been in place through policy and through law, to help people get out of these situations that essentially, you know, they essentially put in, you know, people, the comment that folks make that, you know, oh, the system isn't working. But it's like, no, the system is working exactly like it's supposed to work, right? So we've got to change the system for it to work better for people who haven't, you know, really been able to benefit from even a college degree. Some people still are not able to pull them, you know, it doesn't pull them into sort of the mainstream of you know, potential income earnings and home ownership, and we could go down the line. But yeah, I think just increasing the numbers could help with that. But I think it's a long game. I don't think it's something we're going to solve next year. I think it's a long game. I think it's it's one of those indicators that like it should be priority, but I don't think you should be looking for any real changes in any of those numbers as far as reunions and homecomings for at least a decade, because it's going to take us building up the numbers of students that come to Geneseo. It's going to take them then going back to their communities and promoting Geneseo to the next generation of students. You know, the few alumni of color that I've spoken to, one just recently actually, her name is Farah Sufrant Forrest. Farah Forrest is a brand new New York State Assembly member. And she is a SUNY Geneseo graduate, and she is an EOP alumni as well from SUNY Geneseo. She's as she put it, she's in the fight now. So those are the types of folks we need to produce from these programs and from the college in order for some of those other issues to sort of resolve themselves, Eddie.
Hey, Marcus, I'm going to just jump in here, Brooke. I know we've got 10 minutes left. This is John Gleason. I'm currently chair of the Geneseo Foundation, and honored to have that opportunity to have that position, and a proud 87 alum. So thanks for the opportunity for listening to you today and for all the information you provided. What I was interested to do is currently in the corporate sector, I'm very involved. I came from a rural area upstate New York, so providing opportunities for students, certainly AOP and EOP students, in the corporate sector now, they have programs specifically geared for diversity candidates. And and you coming on in this new role, I wanted to make sure I jumped right in out of the gate and say, I'd love to work with you in the career services offices to try and find ways. Historically, I've reached out to the college and it has been a challenge. I appreciate the numbers game. So it's a challenge to get resumes or get students to want to participate in these, we call them early insight programs where I work. So as you get settled in your space, to work with career services and what Tracy has talked about as well, to maybe there's a pipeline or a funnel when we come in where we have these programs. I know we've just worked with Bob Boyd, he's identified a candidate, but to have a central focal point when we need candidates to fill the slots in these programs, quality candidates, we can come to you. So I look forward to working with you and wanted to put that on your radar as you start.
Definitely. Thank you for that, John. And you probably don't know this, but your office is on my to-do list to connect with. But I moved it down in priority just because we're dealing with this pandemic and students are, we don't actually see students. So it's hard to sort of get them to engage with another office that, we're just trying to get them to engage with us right now.
It's the long game, as you said, right?
It is the
totally
long game. Yes, but thank you for that offer, and I will definitely take you up on that, John.
Hi, Marcus. My name is Nick Valentino. I'm a class of 1999. I'm an academic counselor at the University of Rochester. I was a McNair advisor about 5 years, and I oversaw the day-to-day operations for about 2 to 3 years of McNair program. So I understand what a great program is and a great opportunity. I currently work in the Hayden School of Engineering at U of R, working with underrepresented students and veterans who are students statistically less likely to graduate with a degree in engineering or computer science. So I'd like to offer any sort of help or possible collaboration or anything that you possibly need. I have known that the influence of having students get involved in research, especially with the McNair program, is one of the biggest catalysts to them being successful. Can you talk about what the faculty reaction has been? I know that this limited in their time in the position, but what's the relationship with faculty like?
Yeah, I will reiterate that our campus allies are fantastic, and we actually just put out a call for faculty members to coordinate and staff our summer. Let's see, we call it the gyro, right? So it's the Geneseo individual research opportunity, right? Or it's the guided individual research opportunity, but the gyros. So yeah, we got an amazing response from our faculty members and everybody, because we just got word that program also will be able to be on campus in person. So we got some some emails with a whole bunch of exclamation points in them being happy about being on campus again. So yes, our campus allies are fantastic, and we're continuing to build those relationships. We actually just started meeting with the School of Business, and Mary Ellen, I think, is the dean there. So she and I have just started a relationship within the last few weeks. We have some things we're talking about, but yes, Nick, I will take you up as well. I wrote your name down. I'm assuming you're searchable on the U of R website.
Correct. That's correct.
I'll find you.
Yeah. And also one more plug for this. I was a student athlete at Geneseo, so any student athletes you can include would be amazing. So.
Fantastic.
And Marcus, I wanted to talk about your off-campus allies potentially. One of the hats I wear is I'm a village trustee in Geneseo right now. So one of the problems that we notice is that while students of color are at Geneseo, it's very difficult, even though they're here 4 years or more, it's very difficult for them to integrate, and other students overall, into the rest of the community. Sometimes we look at the Geneseo campus as a little island unto itself with a moat that nobody sees. And it's hard to leave. So we know that there are challenges because you say, let's admit it, this is a primarily white community. And there are some challenges here. So anything we can do as part of the village government, part of the residents of the village to help integrate people outside of the campus, we're here to help. So,
Well, Eddie, you are also on my to-do list because one of the things that I want to do, and it would have been too hard to facilitate during this pandemic, but once we get back on campus, I would love to figure out a way for the Geneseo, like the village police, to come and have a function with our students. Because yes, our students, you know, they screw up sometimes, but that doesn't mean, you know, they should get a certain type of treatment, right? And I feel like if we can get these two constituent groups together prior to there being a problem, that when there is a problem, it won't escalate to a point of someone being abused in some way. So I wrote your name down too, Eddie. I will be contacting you because maybe you could help me facilitate that. But I feel like the students, they're a little hesitant to move around that village. And you know, maybe some of them have a real good reason for feeling that way. But yes, I think we can improve those relations just by bringing folks together. And you know, no one comes to college to, as one of my former college presidents said, no one comes to college to get a criminal record, right? But college students do things that could get you a criminal record, right? So, you know, that's why we have that conduct system, and we would like to try to keep things within that system for students who make bad decisions. So,
yeah, just a final point on that is we just went through a police reform process because the governor has mandated all local governments to go through a police reform process. And we had a public meeting on it, and probably 80% of the participants were students. We had a great turnout, about 40 people came out, and most of them were students. So we've been working on that as well. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's keep the conversation going.
Definitely, Eddie. Thank you for that.
I'm going to jump in right away, and before our minute is over, and introduce myself. I'm Olympia Nicodemi. I'm an alum of a different sort. I just became emeritus this year after entering in 1981. So I've been here a long time. I've worked with Miguel, on the McNair program. I was in on the initial institution of that. I've worked with AOP frequently, and I would like to offer academic support. And I also knew Isam and Betty Fern.
Right.
So I would like to be out there and talk to you when we have more than 1 minute about how I could possibly get involved in academic support, both advising and content-wise. I'm in math.
And
I will definitely take you up on that.
Okay, cool.
Depends on your emeritized status as well.
I'm going to take 30 seconds here myself. Marcus, pleasure to meet you. I wanted to jump in just to say hello and to welcome you to AOP, to Geneseo. I am a 2014 alum. AOP, started my career in TOP in higher education, and so it's been great. Was the inaugural McNair coordinator at Geneseo, and so it's yes. I also want to just extend any sort of support that I can, whether it's mentorship or you know, sort of getting folks through in terms of getting into doctoral programs. I'm still adamant about that. Just wanted to put my services out there wherever I can. So I either expect an email from me, or if I hear from you, vice versa, I will reach out. I just wanted to make the connection.
Thank you, Miguel. And thank you to everyone. Really, I really appreciate all this support. This is great.
And thank you so much, Marcus, again, for joining us today and for sharing all those wonderful updates. And thank you, everybody. We'll follow up with a recording probably next week, so you can watch again if you want, or pass that on to folks who might be interested. And we hope to see you again soon.
Bye, guys.